Hi, I'm Dr. Brian Thornburg, and just this past week, Robert Kennedy, the Secretary for Health and Human Services, announced that there is a possible link between the use of acetaminophen or paracetamol or Tylenol in pregnant moms and autism. This is an alarming discovery, and I want to go through the science. The reason I want to go through the science is so that you can hear the facts and not hear the spin that's happening. The right media, the left media, I've heard the political colors coming through, and so I want to get the message to you in a very scientific way. And what we're going to look at is just what happens when mom takes acetaminophen, paracetamol, Tylenol. They're all the same thing. What it does in her body, what it does in the baby's body, and what health outcomes can come as a result of mom taking this drug. When mom takes the medicine, she usually takes 500 milligrams to 1 gram of acetaminophen. And this is a normal, typical dose for an adult. She can take it as often as every 4 to 6 hours. Obviously, she's going to have a level of caution and not wanting to take it more than she has to, but she will be advised by the OB that she can take this if she's having any type of discomfort or if she has a cold with a fever or anything that's just bothersome, that acetaminophen would be the proper drug to use. And it's been recommended for years and years and years that this is the medicine that mom should take during pregnancy. They try to avoid Motrin or ibuprofen because there is a risk profile to this drug, this ibuprofen and Motrin, of bleeding. And obviously in pregnancy, we don't want to have any unnecessary bleeds. So Tylenol, acetaminophen, paracetamol have been the drugs of choice for many, many years in pregnant moms. So what's happening when mom takes this 500 milligram to 1 gram dose every 4 to 6 hours? So within 30 to 60 minutes, mom's liver will convert it into a useful form. It will transport and reach a steady state throughout the circulation of the mom. The placenta does not actively block the flow of acetaminophen into the baby's blood, and there is no active transport of acetaminophen from mom's blood to the baby's blood. So it's basically a concentration and a flow issue for baby to receive the therapeutic dose that mom just took in the baby's blood. And this is where we run into the first snag, the first hiccup, and the first that you will be probably hearing about this is that in pediatrics, we dose babies on medicines by their weight. So mom takes a 500 milligram to 1 gram dose of acetaminophen. A baby, and I'm going to use a term baby just for this example. So a full-term baby is going to roughly weigh 6 to 7 pounds. So their therapeutic dose given every 4 hours is 45 to 50 milligrams of acetaminophen every 4 to 6 hours. Contrast this to the mom's dose of 500 milligrams up to 1,000 milligrams every 4 to 6 hours. The baby, a newborn, is taking 1/10 of the dose of mom to achieve a therapeutic level. Now recall that mom's blood allows a flow concentration gradient to occur from mom's blood into the baby's blood, which means that the baby now has a dose equivalent to mom at 500 to 1,000 milligrams therapeutic dose instead of the 45 to 50 milligram dose that a term newborn would need. So you have to reverse that a little bit and decrease the dosage because obviously a fetus is not the same weight as a term infant. So you can see immediately just by the pharmacokinetics or how the drug is metabolized in the mom and then subsequently in the baby that there is a very high dose of acetaminophen achieved in the baby's blood within 30 minutes to 60 minutes. The baby does not have a liver that is mature like a mom's. So the baby largely is depending on mom's liver to clear this medicine, and we know that mom clears the medicine in a 4 to 6 hour period because that's when she can redose the medicine. There is still residual medicine sitting around because it doesn't go from therapeutic dose to 0 in that 4 to 6 hour period. It just goes from therapeutic dose down to subtherapeutic dose, and then it rises back up with the next dose into the therapeutic dose range without overshooting what a therapeutic dose would be to mom. Remember, this is happening inside the baby, adult therapeutic doses every 4 to 6 hours when mom takes a dose. And mom will then clear it because that gradient also works in reverse. So the baby's blood will then move the metabolites and acetaminophen out of their blood and back into mom's blood because of that gradient that just pushes it from one side to the other side. Does toxicity occur in the infant, in the fetus rather, if mom is taking an adult therapeutic dose? And toxicity depends on 2 elements: the duration of exposure, how long the dose stays above the baby's or the fetus's therapeutic dose, and how long is that plasma concentration up at that level. So we have time and concentration that determine if something is therapeutic. The other element that happens when a mom takes a therapeutic dose of acetaminophen, what happens inside the baby is the baby will have oxidative stress because the breakdown, even in the baby's or the fetus's immature liver, there is oxidative stress occurring because of the breakdown of the acetaminophen and the other byproducts. The fetus is very good at the first part of conjugation, which helps them excrete and break down this particular drug, but it is not very good at the second part. So again, the baby can start to break down only one of the two steps. That means that they are almost fully dependent on mom's liver to clear the drug, which then raises into question, how long is that drug sitting in higher than needed doses inside the baby? So that's the first element, duration. And then we also know it's at a higher concentration because mom will keep it at a higher concentration because her baseline is at a higher concentration than the fetus is. Now we're going to add this third element called oxidative stress. Because the fetus's liver is not fully matured, the baby will have oxidative stress, which means it'll produce free radicals, which are damaging byproducts of the process of eliminating toxins from the body. And so because of this increase in oxidative stress, that can stress the baby's brain and other developing organ systems. So now we have a questionable high toxicity dose with oxidative stress in a developing fetus. And remember, the blood-brain barrier is not mature, which means that there is not a hard membrane separating blood flow from brain flow, which means that what's in the baby's blood, the fetus's blood, can easily be in the blood's independent circulatory system. And then that can alter how the baby's brain is nourished or how the drug is removed from the baby's brain during this developmental time. There have been some recent studies to support this, and I'm going to go through these one at a time. The first is Environmental Health. This article came out in August of 2025. The title of the article is Evaluation of the Evidence on Acetaminophen Use and Neurodevelopmental Disorders Using the Navigation Guide Method. You can find this online. Another article I found on the National Library of Medicine. This is from Clinical Experiments in Pediatrics. It came out in 2023, and the title of this article is Acetaminophen Causes Neurodevelopmental Injury in Susceptible Babies and Children, No Valid Rationale for Controversy. Interesting title. The third article is from Brain Science in 2021. The title of the article is Perinatal Acetaminophen Exposure and Childhood Attention Deficit Hyperactivity Disorder, Exploring the Role of Umbilical Cord Plasma Metabolites in Oxidative Stress Pathways. And then the last article that has been cited is from Mount Sinai in New York, the research hospital. It says Mount Sinai study supports evidence that prenatal acetaminophen use may be linked to increased risk of autism. And this article came out in August of 2025. So there's quite a bit of mounting evidence that there is a potential link here between autism and the use of acetaminophen during pregnancy. So there's a fourth pathway that can contribute to oxidative stress and possible neurodevelopmental damages in the fetus if mom is taking acetaminophen at normal prescribed doses, and it all depends on how often she's taking it. And the first, as I've mentioned, is the concentration of the drug. The second is the duration that the concentration stays elevated. Third is oxidative stress. And the fourth pathway that can cause increased oxidative damage in the fetus when mom takes a therapeutic dose of acetaminophen is the consumption of glutathione. Glutathione is needed by the baby to help remove the really bad metabolite that comes from the breakdown of acetaminophen. If someone goes to the ER because they overdosed on acetaminophen, what they would give them is N-acetylcysteine, NAC. NAC is the precursor to glutathione. So how they help somebody who is overdosed on acetaminophen is they flood the body with NAC because it's a precursor to glutathione, and then hopefully the concentration of acetaminophen doesn't outstrip the pace of the toxic metabolite that's produced, that the glutathione dose that was administered will cover that pace. When a fetus is then creating this toxic metabolite because they can't do the second part of the detox because they have an immature liver and the mom's not reducing it out of the circulation fast enough, then the glutathione in the fetus is consumed, which means that they take away the glutathione that's available to help break down that toxic metabolite. And so the baby then is exposed to a fourth avenue of very highly toxic oxidative metabolites. And so again, overlay that on a developing fetus, and depends how much Tylenol mom took, how often she took it, at what points in her pregnancy she took it, then there is a concern. I've already said enough terrible things, but I have to add one more just so you can understand the full scope what acetaminophen can do. If a mom is pregnant, she doesn't know she's pregnant. For the first 18 days after conception, she takes acetaminophen, Tylenol, paracetamol for the first 18 days after conception. So she probably doesn't even know that she is pregnant yet. She takes the acetaminophen. It can alter gene expression in these solute nutrient proteins that help carry nutrients into and toxins out of the cell. So what it does is it affects a cell's ability to develop appropriately because it has proper nutrition. Obviously, the acetaminophen will limit the proper nutrition that the cells can have starting at conception. And the second part, if the SNPs can't remove the toxins, then the drug stays at a higher level inside of the cell, further stressing the cell. So you can see that these articles, these scientific articles that I've highlighted, have scientific biochemistry and pathology pathways which show that there almost definitely is a link between the use of acetaminophen in pregnancy and autism or other neurological disorders that can be prevented and should very rapidly be stopped, being recommended by OBs and family practitioners and other healthcare providers. And there needs to be an immediate count on what moms can take when they are feeling in discomfort, because we don't want mom in discomfort, which could also stress out the baby. So there are natural homeopathic and other alternatives that can reduce pain and are safe in pregnancy, but that's not my job. I'm not going to speak on that. I'm not an OB. I'm a pediatrician, and I'm concerned about the little babies. And of course, I'm concerned about moms. Hopefully you understand why it's really important that this information is getting out there. You can see that this has been known for quite a while. There was a study that came out in the early 2000s showing a link between the use of acetaminophen in toddlers and the risk of increased development of asthma. The link there is that same glutathione. When acetaminophen is being given frequently when a child has an upper respiratory infection, and we know that the infection's in the lungs, then the lungs don't have the same ability to scavenge those free radicals, those oxidative damaging particles out of the lungs. So there's kind of a damage at the developmental point in the lung development in these toddlers, and it changes the architecture inside of the lungs because of the acetaminophen consuming the glutathione, and the baby's not taking NAC. So then the damage happens and we can't stop it, and it stays chronic, and now these kids are having increased chance of asthma. So there's been a lot known about acetaminophen, but of course, as I've said on previous videos, our governing agencies, the American Academy of Pediatrics, American Academy of Family Practitioners, the CDC, the FDA, they've all been agency captured. That's why this information is out there. It's absolutely ridiculous that we have known this kind of stuff for 20 years. And now, for the first time under this administration, we are finally getting the information out to everyone. And I am so grateful for that. And please share this video so other people can learn and not damage their children and continue this horrific chain of corporate greed at the damage of our families and our children.